Good evening.
Yeah. We'll just start the session now.
Lovely.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome our Honorable Speaker of the Day, Mr. Monte Swain. He is the former Deloitte Professor in the School of Accounting at Brigham Young University, where he taught and researched management accounting for over 3 decades after graduating from Michigan State University in 1991. His expertise includes decision support system, activity-based costing, revenue management, and balanced scorecard. He has received several prestigious awards, including the Brumet Distinguished Award for Management Accounting Educators 2016 and MBA Core Professor of the Year at BYU 2021. Professor Swain has also served in leadership roles with organizations such as Institute of Management Accountants, American Accounting Association, and CIMA, and is a founding director of Profitability Analytics Center of Excellence. He currently serves as a lead author and instructor for the UWorld CMA learning system. A warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you. I would also like to welcome Mr. Shubir Katu, the Senior Director of Business Development at UWorld and seasoned education industry leader with over 20 years of global experience in test preparation and professional education. He has worked with leading organizations such as Euro Money Learning Solutions, Fitch Learning, Dubai World Trade Center, Wiley, and UWorld with professional experience spanning London, Dubai, Cape Town, Manila, and Singapore, where he currently based. He focuses on students across the Asia-Pacific region successfully clearing CPA, CMA, and CFA exams, leveraging UWorld's innovative learning solutions. A cordial welcome to you also, sir.
Thank you, Team MyLogic, and thank you to all the participants. It's going to be a great session because you're going to learn from no one but the best Monte Swain. Wonderful. So Team MyLogic, should we start the session? Should Monty start his presentation?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give me just one moment to get this screen fully organized. Okay, well, I'm going backwards. Hey, I am so glad to be here with you all. It's morning time where I am. I'm out in the western side of the United States, and I hope it's a beautiful evening where you are. The sun is just starting to peek out and come into my window here, and I get to be with you to begin my day. And I just want to congratulate you right from the get-go. You're on your path to a great enhancement to your professional life. You're going to continue to learn and grow as you're taking this and passing the CMA exam. And then with it, you're just going to accelerate your career. And I'm grateful to partner with you, to partner with UWorld in bringing this preparation session to you here. So I'm going to just very quickly start with a big picture of the CMA exam, but I assume that you are pretty set in terms of understanding how the CMA exam works. So just to be sure we're on the same page, this is a two-part exam that has two parts. That is to say, part one and part two are exactly the same structure, 100 multiple choice questions, MCQs, and 2 CBQs. Now, this is a new term, and this might be new to some of you, but the exam is moving from essays beginning in May to case-based questions. We're going to call those CBQs for short. Now, essays are still optional. You can take the essay part of the exam instead of the case-based questions part of the exam for this next exam window, May and June. But after that, beginning with all exams going forward, the CMA is going to be strictly on case-based questions, which is great. I think case-based questions is a much better way for the exam to work. I think it is a much better way for you to take the exam. That being said, I'm not going to work on essays in this session, but I do have a quick tutorial guide on how to manage essays on the exam, if that's what you're going to do in May and June. And I can send that to Shubar, and he can get it to your organization within 24 hours here. So you've got 3 hours maximum to complete your multiple choice questions and 1 hour minimum to complete your 2 case-based question sets. Overall, you're supposed to have a 72% score, but I've got that kind of approximate here. And that's approximate because the exam you're going to pull your own set of questions will be created or pulled from the big test bank. Some questions are a little harder, some questions are a little easier, so they'll weight your exam. Bottom line, 75% is what the score you need to have in your head as a minimum. And that might give you a 1 or 2 percentage points as a cushion. You probably want a little more cushion to that. So your preparation should be geared to 80% or better as you're doing practice questions in our system here. I'll just note quickly that only 90 of the 100 multiple choice questions are actually scored. They're testing their test questions. 10 of your questions will not be scored. You don't know which questions those are. And as they're getting feedback on those questions, they may be dropped from the exam in the future or made into 4 credit questions. The one thing that I would say here, and this is so important to our whole hour together, is your mind game, how confident you are. If you're struggling with a question on the exam, if you're struggling to understand what it's saying, I want you to think it's them, not you. It's one of these 10 questions that you're looking at that they're still trying to figure out if it's a good question or not. I want you to assume that it's not you breaking down, but it's the question itself. That's the mind game I want you in. And I think it is absolutely going to be accurate. There's going to be a few questions on there that are going to trouble you. And I'll bet it's one of these 10 questions that doesn't count anyway. All right. Scoring the exam, 75% of your score will come from the multiple choice questions. 25% will come from the case-based questions. And there's a strategy on how you're going to focus your preparation. You're going to be stronger with multiple choice. You're going to be stronger with case-based questions. I don't want you to spend a lot of time trying to figure out exactly how these trade-offs work, but I just want to make this point first of all. You have to have 50% or better on the multiple choice questions to be allowed to move forward to the case-based questions. If you scored a perfect 50% on MCQs, that's not enough to actually pass the exam. But if you don't get 50% on the MCQs, I don't want you to worry about it. You're going to have experienced the exam, and then you're going to have another opportunity to experience the exam and get back into it. If you were to score 100% on your multiple choice questions, you don't need to have any points on case-based questions at all. That's not going to happen. You're gonna miss a few. But if you had all of your case-based questions correct, you could allow your score on the multiple choice questions to come down a little bit. Bottom line, what do you pull from this? Multiple choice questions are key, obviously. That's where the exam is weighted. And in the past, essays were a whole different world, and there was more of a case you can make about where you're going to emphasize your preparation and your exam strength. But I'm going to make a case in our time together that case-based questions are essentially now the same thing as multiple choice questions here. Again, you've got 3 hours maximum to complete multiple choice questions part of the exam. That works out to about 1.5 minutes per question. Some of those questions are going to be very quick for you. They'll be conceptual or maybe a quick computational question. Others will take more time. We're going to talk about how to manage your time really intelligently later in our hour together. You have a minimum of 2 hours on the case-based questions. If you get done with the multiple choice a little early, you can start the case-based questions as soon as you would like. And so if you're finishing early, just carry that time over to the case-based question part of the exam. You've got 4 hours total. Each case-based question set, and they call them CBQs, 2 CBQs, but there's actually multiple questions for each case, as you would expect. The exam or the CMA doesn't call those individual questions for each case questions. They call them items. And you're going to see why in just a little while here. You've got about approximately 5 minutes per item for each case-based question, assuming that it's going to come in at an average number of items of 6 per question, but it could be as low as 5 or it could be as many as 7 items. We'll talk about that also. Big picture, and I'll be very quick here, but you need to think about, and if you've studied part 1 at all, in section B, there's a section on strategy. And SWOT analysis is a part of that: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You need to think about what your strengths and weaknesses are. Do you want 100% performance on the exam? Well, if you do, wow, you're amazing. But you don't need it. You only need about an 80% performance to pass the exam with a little safety cushion there. You can strategically think about your safety cushion as you are preparing for the exam. Look at these 6 sections in part 1. Notice here that I've got, let's see if I can get a pen going here. Let's see. Yeah, I think I've got one. All right, yeah. Notice here that you can see how much of your exam will be represented by each of these sections. And so these, of course, will add up to 100%. As you're looking at these 6 sections, which sections are clearly the most important? Well, it's sections B and C. Sections B, C, and D are the core topical areas for management accounting. The other 3 sections are not add-ons, but they are an expansion of your skill set outside of classic management accounting topics. These are where you demonstrate your ability to perform as a true finance professional. But some of these areas may not be as strong for you as others. You should choose where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. For instance, Section A is external financial decisions. This is generally accepted accounting principles. This is financial accounting. If you have a CPA, and I expect very few of you do, but if you have a US CPA, Section A is going to be super easy for you, and you ought to pick up all 15 percentage points there. But if you have not studied much US financial accounting, there's a lot of content there in Section A. I don't want you to get lost in that content. That may be one of the spots where you want to strategically just let yourself be a little weaker. You could give up as much as 10% of those 15 percentage points, and you still have 90% available to pass this exam. You see what I'm saying here? So think about where you're going to be strong, where you're going to be weak when you get into the exam. If you're choosing not to be particularly strong in external financial reporting decisions, when you get one of those questions, don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. Smile at it, take a stab at it, and move on. Everything has an opportunity of probabilistically just being correct by just happenstance picking the right answer. So you've always got a shot at any topic. Okay, let me move on to the next. Oh, I've got to turn this off. Okay, coming to, let me clear all these drawings here. Coming to part 2, it's the same concept here. You can see how each of these 6 sections adds up to 100%, and your eyes should immediately go to the 3 sections that have the lion's share of the points, sections A, B, and C. Those are your strength areas, and you want to be great there. Section F, though, professional ethics, it's 15%, but you will see ethics manifesting in the case-based questions. They will have an ethics question, an ethics item, at least one in each of your 2 case-based questions. And those items are worth a lot. So don't skip over professional ethics. Be good in that area. So what I'm saying is sections D and E, you could choose to be a little weak in one or both of those. You'll be fine. Just know your own strengths and weaknesses here. Okay, let me just pause quickly. That's big picture. And see if there are any questions in the chat. I'm just going to catch my breath and put on my glasses so I can see the chat box. I've got a nice salutation from one of your colleagues there. Good evening back to you, sir. Or ma'am, I can't tell from the names. Yeah, it looks like I don't have any questions. So let's push on. Let's talk specifically about multiple choice question skills, the skills that I'm recommending you develop for those 3 hours you're going to be spending on multiple choice questions in the exam here. First rule, the first skill is what I call the first 5 seconds rule here. I want you to quickly, in just a few seconds, identify the topic. And this relates to what I was saying about the 6 sections of topics for each exam part. Identify the topic and know, is this a strong or a weak topic for you? And again, if it's weak, it should be weak intentionally. And so you don't want to get stressed out about it. Just know, hey, that's a topic that I didn't study as hard. I may pass it, I may not. I'm not going to worry too much about it. If it's a weak topic, you can, in the test taking system, you can flag that. You can hit a little button and the system will flag that and you can just move on. And before the multiple choice question section of your exam can be closed, so you can move on to case-based questions, the system will alert you if you have any flagged items, whether they have an answer or not, and if you have any unanswered questions. So the system will help you not leave anything untouched that you're not aware of on the exam. Of course, you're going to have an answer for all 100 multiple choice questions. So if it's a weak topic, you may just go ahead and pick an answer and then flag it and move on. You can come back. What you want to be sure, and this is probably the first critical skill I want you to develop, is you will run out of time. Almost all of you. There's a couple of you out there that are exam taking monsters and you're great at exams and you love this stuff, and the rest of us we're jealous, and but we're going to let you have that in your life. Hopefully you've got some other things in your life you love as well. But if you love exams, you may get done with this whole exam with time to spare. That's a very rare person. Almost all of us are going to run out of time as we're moving to the end of multiple choice, as we're moving to the end of case-based questions. The key is that you run out of time on the right questions. You don't want to be rushing to finish the last 10 questions on the exam and not able to give enough time to those 10 questions if you choose to, because some of those last 10 questions are going to be easy for you. So be sure that when you're running out of time, you're running out of time on 10 questions that you've already seen and you've already flagged, you've already noted that these are tough questions, they're weaker topic questions, and if you run out of time, so be it. That is just fine. So that's something to practice on. As you're practicing in our learning system, as you're taking mock exams and practice exams, be sure that most of the time you're doing it with a timer going and you have established a habit that, oh, this is a hard question. Oh, I'm stressing out. Oh, this is something that I just strategically don't focus on. I'm going to skip it and then come back to it. So you are good at just going back and forth at least a little bit as you're going through these practice exams. Second skill, this is called the pencil tip test. I'm going to grab a pen here. Of course, you'll have a pencil. Stress can start manifesting in your mind, in your body, without you even realizing it. And when you are stressed, guess what? Your brain isn't working as well. You know that, don't you? The more stressed you are, the less functionable your brain is at that moment. How do you watch yourself? It's called the pencil tip test. Keep an eye on the tip of your pencil. And when you start seeing that pencil tip quivering, you may not realize it already, but when you see that quivering, your brain and your body is stressing and you're not doing good work right now. If that thing is really quivering, just stop. Put down your pencil, move on to the next question, because it ain't happening on the question you're on. If you're starting to see that, just flag it and move on. And get to a question as quickly as you can where you can just take a breath, get one question done, and see that stress starting to settle down. Okay? You hear what I'm saying? Some of you are great at managing stress. Some of you need to get better at it. Here's a quick little stress management skill. And you should have this capability before you walk into any stressful situation, including this exam. there's a lot of terms for this. Box breathing is one way to describe it. It's about 4-second movements of breath. So you can see here the way this is describing this stress management technique is you're going to do one of 4 things and hold it for 4 seconds. So let me start with breathe in. Do it with me. Breathe in, 4 seconds. Hold, 4 seconds. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Hold it. Breathe in, hold. Ah, I feel better already. I've been moving pretty quick as we're going through these slides, and just doing that a couple of times, my heart rate's come down a bit, and I'm going to be a little more focused now. You need to have a technique for calming down. It may involve standing up and walking around and stretching a little bit. That's totally fine as long as you're not peeking into someone else's test-taking cubicle. Have a way to catch yourself, slow yourself, reduce your stress. And if you need to do that 10 or 12 times during the exam, so be it. But if you're stressed, you're not in exam mode. You've got to find a way to calm that down. Okay, next multiple choice exam skill. And of course, a lot of these I'm going to point out later are the same skills you need for the case-based questions. If it is a computational type question here, if it's computational, I want you to take a stab. I want you to take a stab at what direction this computation is likely going. If this is about computing income or contribution margin or a cost or revenue variance or cash flow, be sure to take a broad look at the question and the analysis before you start computing all the details and asking yourself, what direction is this moving? Is this getting better or worse for the company being described in this question? Is income going up or is it going down? Know what direction this computation is going before you get into the nuts and bolts of actually doing the computation. Now, sometimes the question doesn't really allow you to know the direction before you get into it, but a lot of times it does. So practice that as you're doing practice questions. Take a look at the question, quickly categorize it in your mind, make sure you're not stressed, and then look at the data and ask yourself overall, what direction is this variance going? Is it going to be a favorable variance or an unfavorable variance? Know that before you start the actual computations. And if the computation's coming out going a direction you didn't expect, you may want to recheck the assumptions and reread that question to be sure you got it right, that you didn't get slipped up as you're doing all the detailed computations. That's a self-awareness. Now, you need a conceptual exam skill for multiple choice questions, and here it is. Don't get lost in the text. When you come to a multiple choice question, the question may be, several sentences long, or it may be a very quick single sentence question. If that question is long, I want you to first read the answer options and then go back to the question. That's going to help you focus on what you care about in the question by reading through those answer options. Almost always, not every time, but almost always, if you've got a long question, the answer options are going to be short, very quick, a few words each. If you've got a short question, the answer options are often, each of them are pretty long, maybe a long full sentence for each answer option. If it's a short question, read the question, get going on the answer options. But if it's a long question, don't read it yet. Look through the answer options, understand what's the topic, what's the nature of the question going to be. And then as you read the question, you're going to be watching for and underlining the elements in that question that matters. You got to take an inside out, backwards type approach with those long conceptual questions. Now, this is not always true. I've tried to order these multiple choice question exam skills in decreasing order of importance. But often, multiple choice questions, including for the CMA exam, and if you're good at multiple choice questions as an academic student, you know this. There's always going to be 4 multiple choice options. And often, 2 of those options are going to be clearly wrong. Excuse me. Still waking up my morning voice here. 2 of those answers are going to be clearly wrong, and 2 of them are going to be plausible, and you're going to be caught between them. That's great. Eliminating options in a multiple choice question is one of the advantages of a multiple choice question. So and this is particularly for conceptual questions, if you can clearly identify that 1 or 2 of these are just absolutely not going to be right, eliminate them and move this down to the 2 or maybe 3 plausible answers. And if you're running out of time, guess. And you've, of course, increased your probability just by happenstance getting it right. Guess it, flag it, move on. And if you have time, you can come back and try to narrow that down from 3 plausible options down to 2 plausible options, or maybe even actually nail down what the right answer is. Okay. Finally, and when I say I've been going through these skills and decreasing value, this last one is actually, I think, one of the most important. Trust yourself, trust your instincts. I am sure that in your academic life of taking exams and then getting your score and seeing what you got right and what you got wrong, that you've had the experience of looking at a question you got wrong and knowing that you had the question answered correctly to begin with, and then you second guessed yourself. You changed the answer and you made it wrong. I bet that's happened a lot. It happens all the time. You've got 2 levels of thinking, and there is good science behind this. You've got a conscious level of thinking, and you have a subconscious level of thinking. And the better you are at the skill you're working to demonstrate, the better you are, the more your subconscious is at work and doing good work. And you need to trust that. That's your instinct. So once you have answered a question, you stay with that answer unless you can identify a very specific reason why it's wrong. You come back to it and you realize, oh, one of the elements in there that I thought was not relevant to the computation is actually relevant. Or I misclassified the variance. I called it favorable, but clearly it's unfavorable. Or I double counted something. You need to know exactly why your original answer was wrong before you change it. If you change an answer just based on, I don't think I got that right, I'm going to pick something else, that is where you make the mistake of changing a right answer to a wrong answer. That's how it happens. So make your answer, stay with it unless you come back and you know exactly what's wrong with your original answer. Only then will you change. Otherwise, just trust yourself, have confidence, and move on there. Okay. So those are my overall tips on multiple choice questions. Let's just look at 3 or 4 multiple choice questions quickly and practice these skills. We're not necessarily going to get working through all these questions and figuring out exactly what the right answer is, though I'll show you what it is. But here's one. Okay, what's your first 5 seconds? What's the topic? Skim through this question. What is jumping out? What's jumping out here is, let me see if I can get, what's jumping out here is budgeting. There's a lot of budget talk going on here. This is a budgeting question. Is this a strong or weak area for you? Oh, this is a strong area. Then lean into it. Now, is this a conceptual or computational question? It's clearly conceptual. Okay. Is this a long conceptual question or a short one? Well, this is actually a fairly long conceptual question. And the answer options are more than a few words each. This is a pretty involved conceptual question. Don't get lost in it. Look at the answer options first. We're looking at what Madison should do. What should this individual do? Should they employ some type of approach to handling the budget? Okay, so basically, it's a budgeting question, and it's about what the person being described in the question should be doing. All right, I'm ready to read the question. Madison is the CEO of a large company. He has always produced the master budget with the help of the CFO. Is any of that really important to answering a question? Not yet. That's just context. As his company has grown, his employees and managers seem more resistant to adhering to the budget. Oh, this is telling me something important here. That's going to be relevant. What would you suggest to help Madison's company have an effective budget? All right, I know what is core in the question, and I know that it is about helping this individual handle this issue. I've got people who are resistant. Now, if you're good in this area of budgeting, you know that when I've got organizational or issues in my organization with employee behavior, employee incentives, employee buy-in, that often this is about helping them be involved in the budgeting process. That's a bottom to top participative budgeting style. Now, if that's not familiar to you, it will be when you start working in section B of part 1 of the exam with our learning system. Okay, let's move on to another one. Another conceptual question here. And it's short questions, so I can look at that question quickly and then start looking at answer options. But what is the topic? Well, it is talking about establishing standards. Now, this question may be a little unclear. Maybe we should say establishing budget standards. I think that word would actually be there in the CMA question. So this is a budgeting topic question. I'm still in section B. And we want to know what is true. So you're going to emphasize that, not what is false. That's an easy thing to get confused, particularly if your pencil tip is quivering a little bit. That's when your mind jumps over the importance of this being about finding the true elements. So, man, if your pencil tip is quivering, you're not reading this question well. You should be moving on. Take a breath. This is about what's true here. And you're just going to read through each of these elements, see if you can maybe knock one or two out as absolutely couldn't be true, and then narrowing it down. Now, I'm going to keep moving here because we've got, we're a little more than halfway done with our session, and we've got to talk about case-based questions here. So the answer here is A, but we're not going to spend time on why it's true. I want you to be thinking about the overall skills in approaching this type of a question here. All right, now here is a computational question. Now look at this computational question. It's almost like a mini case, isn't it? They're giving you a little scenario. You need to figure out what numbers are relevant and run a computation. It's going to be like a case-based question subsequently. There's not, and I'll make this point stronger as we go, multiple choice, conceptual, and computational questions are going to be very similar to the skill sets you'll need for case-based questions. Products A, B, C, and products A and C equally are the possible answers. There's no help, no information there. Just the question itself is what we care about. So I'm going to explode this so you can see it better. This is companies manufacturing 3 products, A, B, and C. Oh, looks like we need a comma there is missing. And information is provided. All right, I'm not going to look at that information yet. What is important, or what's the nature of the computation I'm looking for? Whoops. I'm down here now. Potential quantity for each product represents how much the company could produce if it produced only that product. All right, it's telling me that each of these are independent product lines. The company has a total of 156,000 machine hours available. Oh, machine hours is going to be important. If the company's only concern is to maximize its total contribution margin, there's the topic right there. This is a contribution margin topic. That is in part C of where all of this is in part 1 of, this is part 2, section C. This is part 2, section C question. And we want to know which product we should dedicate to the scarce machine hours. Oh, this is a scarce resource question here. You can compute contribution margin. You can use contribution margin to prioritize, should we be emphasizing product A, B, or C? Here are the computations. You're going to have these slides available to you. I don't want to take time working through the actual computations. But once you understand what the question is about, you're going to know exactly what the computation, of course, needs to be, and you'll get it right. It turns out product A is the one to prioritize. But you can go back later and work through the actual computational analysis. This is about test taking skill, not the actual computation. Here's one more. This is clearly a computational, and I've got a lot of setup, but very short answers. So I'm going to look at the answers first. This is about operating income. I can see that. It's about whether operating income is going to increase or decrease. Right now, I know what I care about in the question. So now I come up to the question, and it's telling me about this particular company that has a particular contribution margin ratio, and that there's a decline in revenue that it's expecting. And we want to compute the monthly change in operating income. I already know that from looking at the answer options. Here's the computation, and here's the correct answer, but I'm just helping you think consciously about managing your work in the question before you get into the actual skill of answering this correctly. Okay, I'm ready to move on. We're going to talk about case-based questions next, but any questions in the chat box? I'm going to look at it right now. Ha! All right. Brumika asked me, skipping any one of the sections which has the least weight, will that not affect us meeting the criteria of entering the case-based question section? Yes, of course. If you skip, if there's a section, say it is information technology, if you're not good at, and if you struggle with data analytics and information system management, that is section A, B, C, D, E. That's section E. No, that's section F in part one. If that's a weak area for you, yes, I want you identifying those types of questions. I want you flagging them, moving on to the other questions you understand, but coming back to those flag questions before you leave the multiple choice section. You're not gonna, this is how you get the most strength out of your preparation. And yes, you're going to be a little weaker in some section of the exam than other sections. I want you to know what those weak sections are, and I want you spending the least amount of time of those 3 hours on those topics, not the most. You spend the most time where you're strong. And that's going to actually help increase your performance so that you do, so you do get to the case-based questions. Wow, my voice is a little dry this morning. Okay, I don't see any of the questions here. Let's get to case-based questions. All right, this is a new kid on the block. This is a new type of exam that's coming here, and case-based questions are coming for the first time to the exam in May. They're optional. You can do essays, but after the May-June window, beginning in September of this year, it's case-based questions always. This was just announced a few months ago, and we have been working extremely hard at UWorld to roll case-based questions into the system. And guess what? Those are in the system just as of a couple of days ago. I don't think there's another learning system in the world that's got case-based questions rolled into the learning system as quickly as UWorld. Huzzah! So they're in the course, and you can start working with them right now. What is a case-based question? Well, it is a case. It's not a long case, but it's longer than a multiple choice conceptual question. It's about 250 words, not more than 250 words, to set up a scenario, and then 5 to 7 items to answer on that scenario. The key is these are objective items. What does that mean? Well, it means you're not going to be subjectively responding by doing writing in your own words. You're going to receive different elements, and you're going to select which of those potential responses is correct for that item. Sounds like a multiple choice question, doesn't it? And it largely is. There are 4 types of items for you to answer for a CBQ. Drag and drop, multiple select, numerical entry, and fill in the blank. but you're not going to fill it in by writing in that blank yourself. They're going to give you options. Of these four types, numerical entry is the only one that is maybe subjective. I mean, you've got to come up with your own computation and put it into the box. But all the others, they're going to give you options to select from. So let me explain those. Drag and drop. You're going to pick up and drag options to different categories. So here I've got 4 different options and 2 different categories, and it's going to require you to just with your mouse drag each of those options into a category. And once you see how one actually looks, and I'm going to show you, it will make sense. And you're going to think, oh my gosh, that's so much better than trying to write an essay. And it is better. So this is one type of drag or drop example, dragging options into buckets or categories. Another type of drag and drop is dragging and dropping into an order to put these things into the right sequence or right chronology. So they're going to give you 4 options in some random order, and you need to order them into number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Multiple select. Well, it's like multiple choice, but multiple select means there's more than one right answer. And it will tell you exactly how many right answers you need to select. So it's going to give you a setup, and it could be conceptual or computational, but most likely it will be conceptual. You're going to select, say 2, it could say 3. And if there is 3, you'll have more answer options. If there's 2, you'll have less answer options. But when it's a multiple select, you'll always have more than 4 options. In this case, I've got 6 options, and I'm just going to need to tap on 2 of those and then move on. So it's essentially, it's a multiple choice question again. Numerical entry. This is the only one that's free form. They're going to ask you for a computation, and you're going to insert your computation into a box. And the practice here is to just understand how to put those computations in. They don't want commas in there. They don't want currency indicators in there. They just want the number. Now, if the number includes decimal places, it will tell you 2 decimal places, and you'll put a period or a decimal point in your answer. But other than that, you're only going to put numbers into the box, and I'll show you one of those in a minute here. Fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. I don't like that description. That's how the IMA describes it. But this is about, they're going to give you a statement, and that statement is going to have 1, 2, or 3, or 4 blanks in it. And each of those blanks will have a little drop-down menu. And when you click on that drop-down menu, it's going to give you options to select from that will automatically insert into that blank. That's a long description. When you see one here in just a minute, you're going to understand exactly what I mean. But these are the types of items that form case-based questions. I just paused in there to see if you have any questions, but I think we just need to look at some actual CBQs from our UWorld learning system that were just released in the last 72 hours. So you're the first ones in the world to see CBQs from UWorld, which means I think you're the first ones in the world to see CBQs, period. So here we go. What kind of skills do you want with a case-based? Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. It's a little still waking up here. I want to talk about very quickly the skills, and then I'll show you the questions. So I got you all excited, but I'm not going to show you the questions quite yet. Skills. When you're shifting from the multiple choice questions to the case-based questions, that is a time to take a break mentally. We're shifting the world a bit here. You're at the end of the 3 hours, you're going into the last hour. So before you make that move, I want you to stand up. I want you to stretch. I want you to touch your toes. I want you to take a couple of cleansing breaths. I want you to get reset. So don't just move right into case-based questions, right? Shake it out. Do something physical and then sit down and get to it. Now, your mindset, and I think you're picking up on this from what I'm saying, it's not a big shift in the world. These are really just more multiple choice type questions here. So you're going to practice CBQs in our system until you're convinced that, oh, this is basically the same thing as multiple choice questions. I want you to, as quickly as you can, to be unimpressed by the world of CBQs. I want you to come to understand pretty quickly that this is not really a new world. It's really just more of the same. So you're going to use the same skills. You're going to use the first few seconds to identify the topic in each item. Now, the case itself has multiple topics, but you're going to look at each of those items and identify the topic. You're going to watch for your pencil tip. Make sure it's not shaking too hard. If it is, you need to take a breath. I want you to think, if it's a computational item, what direction is it going? And I want you to eliminate aggressively, because you're going to have options to eliminate from the items that are provided to you. And you're going to trust your instincts. Once you've made a selection, you're going to stick with it unless you know exactly why you got it wrong. These same skills here. You're going to divide your time equally. You've got 2 CBQs, and you have to spend a minimum of 1 hour doing CBQs. The system, at the end of 3 hours, if you're not done with multiple choice questions, the system will give you like a 30-second warning. I think it will give you a 1-minute warning, a 30-second warning, a 10-second warning, and then it's just going to close down multiple choice questions and push you to CBQs. Again, if you're done early with multiple choice, you can hit the button and move to CBQs yourself. But let's assume that you have exactly 60 minutes. I don't want you spending more time on the CBQ with the most questions or the most items. It doesn't matter. If one CBQ has 5 items and the other one has 7 items, they're both going to receive the same number of total points. So go to the first CBQ, give it 30 minutes. And whether you're done or not, I want you to move on, because you can come back. If you get done with the second CBQ in less than 30 minutes, come back. Now, of course, if you're finishing the first CBQ more quickly than 30 minutes, go on to the next one. But I want to be sure that you don't get to the second CBQ with only 10 minutes left. That would be crazy. So put a timer on, and at the end of 30 minutes, I don't care if you're done or not, move to the next one. Now, when I say done or not, you should have an answer put in to every item in that first CBQ, but it may be that you guessed. Move on. Be sure you give yourself a minimum of 30 minutes there. Okay. Like we said with conceptual questions, don't read the essay first. And this is a crazy concept initially, but I want you to get used to it. Don't read that long scenario first. Read through all of the items quickly. What are those items about? What are the topics? Is that a strong topic for me or a weak topic? Then I want you to select one of the items to answer. Now go to the scenario and quickly read through it. Pick out the information you need, answer that item, and then move on. Don't answer these items 1 through 6 in order. Answer the item first where you're strong. And here is something that may surprise you. Some of these items, you don't even need to read the scenario to answer them. How could that possibly be? Well, I'm going to show you here. Here is a practice we're going to look at here. This is a CBQ in our system. This is the first half of the scenario. I'm running out of space here on the board. So here is a setup where it's giving you some context and it's providing some numerical information. There's actually more. Here's the rest of it. Here's the rest of the numerical information. So there is, quite a bit of information. What's the first thing you're going to do? You ain't going to read this. Do not read this. Move to the elements or the items. Now, I am challenged by my screen size here, so I'm going to show you these one item at a time. But here's the first item. It's asking you to complete these sentences by choosing from a list of options. So I've got 3 sentences here. There's a box with a little drop-down menu. If I were to select this first one here, it's going to open up and it's going to give me 5 different options to fill in this sentence. Sentence is an indicator of the adequacy of the selling price to cover cost of goods sold. So which of these indicates the adequacy of selling price to cover cost of goods sold? If you're good in this area, and this is a part 2 question, and it's specifically section A, financial statement analysis. The answer here, that answer is gross margin. So you would be picking that. It will automatically insert it in, and you move on to the next question and drop down. For these particular 3 items, it's the same drop down is going to open up for each of these 3 sentences. So you'll move through those quickly. But here's the thing that's it's maybe surprising you. These elements, these items are not specific to the scenario. These are overall concepts here. Gross profit margin is always an indicator of the adequacy of the selling price to cover costs of goods sold. You can answer this without reading the scenario. That's important to understand. So this first item doesn't require reading the scenario. It is kind of a funky looking multiple choice question. It's 4 multiple choice questions. That's what it is. Let's look at item 2. Select the statements that are true regarding the year 6 and the year 7 income statement information. Well, what have I learned from this? Well, I've definitely got to go back to the scenario because it's asking me specifically about what's happening in year 6 and year 7. And I'm going to select 2 answers. So this is a multiple choice type question, and 2 of these 5 are going to be correct here. But I am going to go back to the scenario. Now, do I want to take time to punch through the scenario and ferret out this information, answer this? I'm actually would skip this. I don't want to come back because I want to be sure that you can see each of these different elements. So I'm not giving you the right answer there, but it's in our system. Here's item 3. Complete the following sentences by choosing from the list of options. The vertical analysis percentage for cost of goods sold in year 7 is equal to, this is specific to the scenario. I've got to go in to the year 7 data and calculate the vertical analysis percentage for cost of goods sold. And if I were to click this drop down, there's 3 options there. So it's multiple choice, isn't it? And it's going to tell me one of these 3 is the right computation. Again, is this a strong area for you? And do I need to go back to the scenario and figure out what information is relevant to answer it? This might be one that we come back to. Item 4, use your mouse to drag and drop each item to show whether it increases or decreases gross profit margin. All options will be used. So I got 5 options here. I've got 2 categories, either increases profit margin or decreases gross profit margin. Oh my word, this one doesn't require me to go back to the scenario. This is a overall conceptual question that's always, relevant to any type of organization. Let me look at this first one. An increase in sales price while cost of goods sold remains unchanged. So sales price goes up, cost of goods sold doesn't change. Is that going to increase gross profit margin or decrease it? Right? It's going to increase it. So that one's going to get dragged down into this category. It's going to come off of my options. I'm going to narrow down my options as I'm filling up each of these categories, drag and drop. It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. And you're going to get good at this. Here is item 5. Item 5 is a classic fill in the blank with the computation. So sometimes computations will be a drop down multiple select. Sometimes the computations, they give you a blank box here and you're going to run a computation and fill it in. Now, that's grayed in, that's not the answer. This is just telling you how your answer is going to automatically be formatted. It's not going to insert commas in there, but it's going to create a space every time there's a comma spot in the number. And you're going to include 2 decimal places here. So that's just going to be typed in. Item 6, select the factors that would most likely reduce Orion's earnings quality, and you're going to select two of these. Now, looking at that, you may think, oh, I've got to go back to the scenario to answer this. But if you look at this a little closely, you're going to recognize that this, again, doesn't require me to understand exactly what's happening at Orion. For instance, reported earnings include a significant gain from the sale of land that is not used in operations. Does this improve earnings quality or not? This is a Section A. This is a Part 2, Section A topic here. This whole CBQ is all about financial statement analysis. This actually is not good for my earnings quality. It is something I should be selecting. In fact, A and D are the right two answers. Again, the point is you don't actually have to read the scenarios to know that these are the right choices to select here. This is all multiple choice question type work. So you need to, again, convince yourself of that. Practice our CBQs in the UWorld course and understand that the same skills, almost entirely the same skills and absolutely the same topics are just being addressed in a case-based setting, but it's the same skill set for you. All right. We've got just, wow, we're out of time here. I want to say just a couple of quick words of advice to you on how to prepare for the exam. But let me see if I've got any questions here. Okay, I've got a question that is asking me. Some of the students who took the exam earlier have told that they have got questions only from some specific sessions and not from all 6 sections. How does that work? That could only have been true on the essay part of the exam. On the multiple choice part of the exam, you're going to see all 6 sections represented, and they will be represented at those percentage weights that I pointed out. That will happen. But in the essays in the past wouldn't necessarily have hit on all 6 sections. And it's going to be the same with case-based questions. The case-based questions won't necessarily hit all 6 sections of topics, but they're going to work. The IMA is going to work to see if they can represent as many of those 6 sections as they can into the CBQs. Okay, where can we go to prepare? This is what I want to just say just very quickly, and you'll have these slides available to you. Here are 3 or 4 quick slides on how to prepare for the exam. So, big picture stuff. What are you doing right now? If you haven't yet, my friends, I want you to commit to your test date. I want you to commit to that date. I want you to spend your money. I want you to know exactly when you're going to take the exam. The worst thing to do to exhaust yourself, if your goal is to exhaust yourself and over prepare, is to prepare. And when you feel prepared, then select your test date. That's not a good method because you're going to extend your preparation far too long and you're going to spend far too much effort getting prepared. Think about when you took final exams if you went to a university. You knew the date of the final exams. If they said to you, look, you can take the final exam whenever you want. It doesn't matter to us. Just pass it. Some of you would still be in school. You never will have taken your final exam. You'll keep pushing it off. Commit to the test date and then start preparing. This helps you focus your time. I've got 6 weeks to get ready to take this test, and you're going to find yourself focusing in and being much more efficient with your 6 weeks. Don't do it alone. Have a study mate, have a study partner. Identify someone who likes you or maybe even loves you to be accountable to. Let them know what you're doing and how you're hitting your study goals, and have someone to celebrate with it. Not just celebrating completing the exam, but I'm talking about celebrating hitting your preparation goals, and do something fun for yourself. When it's time to sit down and study, and a lot of this you know, but I'm just reminding you that there is a discipline to do this well. Eliminate distractions. Don't have your phone on. Don't have music playing. Don't have a little YouTube screen going on your monitor. Don't have people in the room. Get quiet. Get to a space where you can focus. And set a study time. I'm going to study for 2 hours. And do that effectively by committing to when you're going to stop. So I'm going to study tomorrow for 2 hours and I'm going to stop at 6 p.m. And I don't care if you got the 2 hours done or not. At 6 p.m., you're going to stop and you're going to be able to commit to everyone else in your life that at 6 p.m., I'm going to be done. Knowing when you've got to stop helps you get started. Think about going to a meeting at work. Knowing that a meeting has got to end at 1 p.m., everyone knows that if we don't get this meeting started at noon on the dot, we're just going to have less time to meet because we're going to stop at 1 p.m. It helps people get started. It helps create focus in that committed period of time. Another one, create a celebration wall. Set steady goals and physically put it on a wall somewhere. Maybe it's a digital wall, but have it and have a way to check off hitting your study dates and your study goals. And when you meet a goal, man, treat yourself. Go out and celebrate. Be sure you're rewarding yourself as you go. Stay healthy. Stay healthy. You can really break down if you just lose yourself in the preparation process. It's a beautiful time in your life. You're learning. That learning should be sweet. SWEET, which means as you're learning, get enough sleep. Be sure you're staying hydrated. Drink the minimum amount of water you should every day. That's 2 liters minimum, up to 3 liters. Be sure that this is the best time for your eating discipline, that you are practicing good eating, not bad eating. Be sure that you're exercising. If you can do it every day, that would be awesome. Minimum 3 times a week. And finally, T, take time to catch your breath, to reflect, to recover. Give yourself some space. Get out of the office occasionally. Wherever you study, if you're studying in the same place every time, all the time, it's going to start wearing on you. So occasionally, change the scenery. Study today in a coffee shop or in the park or at a library or in a backyard. Adjust your setup, your situation occasionally. That will be refreshing for you. Now, last slide. On test day, well, the day before, the evening before. And I know you know this, but you've got to consciously commit yourself to this. Don't be in the weeds. Don't be in the details of trying to cram the night before. Don't be trying to go through a lot of practice questions. Don't be reviewing, rereading, rewatching lessons. You should have some notes that you've been taking as you go. This is when you review your notes and quickly walk through all the topics. And then focus on unclenching your mind. Be sure you have a nice meal. Be sure you do something physical. Go for a walk. Maybe do something entertainment wise. Go see a movie or go to dinner with some friends and get, for goodness sake, enough sleep. If you have not been disciplined enough to have 8 hours of sleep every night when you're studying, for heaven's sake, get that sleep the night before. Morning of, eat the right breakfast. You know what it is. Not so much that you're feeling heavy, but protein rich that gives you enough carbs also for energy. And get there early. Get there to the parking lot so you've got time to sit in the car, catch your breath, maybe look at a few more big sets of notes. Walk in, be one of the first ones to come into the center so that you can get to your cubicle and sit there for a few minutes. Just again, catch your breath. And I want you to be smiling on the day of the test because you've earned this day. You've earned the right and the opportunity to have a great experience. Whether you pass it or not, I want you smiling and knowing that I've worked hard for this day. This is my day. All right. That's it,
Monty,
my
just
friends.
one
Wrap up
question. I think where they said tips on how to prepare, where to start. Do you have a particular suggestion on should they start with a stronger topic, a weaker topic, or should they go in a particular order or a particular section first?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Shubar. I appreciate you clarifying that. I don't have, I don't think there is exactly the right approach whether you should start with the strong topics or the weak topics. If it was me, I would look at those 6 sections. I would identify the sections that are clearly most important, which are the sections that have the largest percentage representation. And for me, I would prioritize those sections first. The sections themselves, uh, I'm thinking through part one of the exam, section B, which is budgeting, and section C, which is performance management, section D, which is cost management. Those three sections actually feed on each other. So I would definitely do section B before I did section C or maybe C or D. I had to think about my alphabet letters. But section A, section E, section F are totally independent. There's no particular order that matters there. Part two, those six sections are mutually exclusive. They're independent. You don't need to study one before you go to the other. So I would say go to the sections where have the heaviest weight. And for me, I'd start with my strong areas to be sure that I got my strength set, and then spend remainder time on the weak areas. That would be my personal preference. Last one. Should I sit for the May-June window? Is it better to go with essays or case-based questions? I think case-based questions are going to be a much easier way to prepare for the exam and to take the exam. Essays are just a completely different world. If you have a particular strength, and I think that is a minority number of you have a particular strength in writing essays, then sit for the essays for this next window. But my bet is nearly, if not all of you, are going to prefer case-based questions to essays. So unless, again, you feel really strong in your skill set with essays, don't try to accelerate to May, June just so you can do essays. Go try some of these case-based questions in our learning system. You'll know very quickly if they make you crazy or if you really like them. I think you're going to really like them. Would it be appreciated if you would share your personal tips for CBQs? Well, everything I've been talking about with CBQs, those are my personal tips. I will be recording my personal tips on essays. I'll get that to Shubar, and he will get that to your contact person in your organization, and you'll have that if you'd like to see what Monty says about essay questions. But CBQs and multiple choice questions, everything in here I've now laid out for you, and I hope it's helpful. And that, for me, is it. I appreciate the time I've had with you today. Believe in yourself. You're going to achieve this. You're going to be successful. This CMA certification is going to bless your life. And I just want to congratulate you in advance for being on this path and knowing that you're going to be where you want to be. It's going to happen for you. Grateful to partner with you in the journey. Anything more I can add to this at this point?
Thanks, Monty. It was really informative. Thanks to our wonderful partner, Team MyLogic, as well, and to all the students of MyLogic. We wish you all the best in the learning journey using the fantastic UWorld system and your great teachers from MyLogic. And if there are any questions, reach out to your administrators at MyLogic, and they can always reach any of us. So thanks again for sharing your evening with us. Thank you, Monty, for your morning.